Alright, so in this module, Module 2, we are going to start building our level by whiteboxing out what we have. We're also going to download a first-person controller so that we can move around our level. I'm going to build a new scene by going to File, New Scene. You can also press Control-N, and I'm going to use the basic built-in preset. It has a sun and it has a main camera. But let's go ahead and download the first-person controller that Unity has built for Unity. We are going to go to Window. I can zoom in for you there. And then Package Manager. And the default packages built in here, we can open this up. So this shows the packages that are already running in our Unity project. There's the universal render pipeline, there's some version control. I'm using the Visual Studio Code editor. You might not be yet. And I'm going to go to Packages, Unity Registry, and look for that first-person controller, which I'm not certain is going to be in here. And it isn't, and that's okay. I'm going to go to the My Assets. And if you do this, well, you're not going to have all the assets I've gotten from the asset store. So let's go to the asset store for Unity. And I will leave a link to this in the module so that you can find it. We're looking for the starter assets, first-person character controller. You'll select Add to My Assets, and it will likely ask you to log in. And so you'll log in with the same account that you have in Unity, and then it will show up in your package manager. So here's me with 129, so I'm just going to have to search for starter. And there's the first-person character controller. There's also a third-person character controller, but we are going to use the first-person character controller. Import. And then after we hit import, there will be this window that shows off all of the things that it's going to import. There are some models and some scripts. And there's a little green new badge next to all the things that are new, and you can see that it's not going to import some of this tutorial info because it already exists in my project. So I'll go ahead and click import here, and it's probably going to ask me, do I want to use the new Unity input system? And I'm going to say yes. I'll just pause this while that compiles. So here we are. This project is using the new input system, but the native platform backends are not enabled. Do you want to enable the backends? Doing so will restart the editor and disable the old Unity engine.input APIs. Let's say yes. And I'll pause again. Oh boy. Wonder how long that'll take. And we're back. So we should have a first-person controller now under the Starter Assets folder. Once Unity catches up. And then under first-person. So if you need to read all of these, you can take this little slider and minimize it down to the bottom. I like to do that. And we can go to the first-person controller and prefabs. And I'm going to bring the player capsule in. And that is not going to work well. So we run into this issue where some of the textures are pink. And this is because they are built for the default render pipeline, and we are using the universal render pipeline. There's also the high definition render pipeline, which is going to also generate a different kind of material that will come in as pink in our project. So if you go to the project view and select favorites, all materials, you'll notice that several of these materials that we've just brought in are pink because they are for a different render pipeline and they don't work the right way in our project. What we are going to do is go to Edit, Render Pipeline, and then Universal Render Pipeline, and upgrade project materials to the Universal Render Pipeline materials. And this says, are you sure? Make sure you have a project backup. We don't have anything really to back up, so we're just going to hit Proceed. And then they're fixed. There's our materials. There's no pink materials. Oh, there's one. What's this? Built-in triplanar material. That might be a specific thing to... I'm not going to worry about this asset. We're not going to use it. So I've been reading the documentation. It's nice to do that from time to time. And realized that there's an easier way than going to the prefabs and dragging in several of the different prefabs. And one way of getting our first-person controller into this scene is going to Tools. Up at the top, you've got Tools now, Starter Assets, and Reset First-Person Controller. And if you select that, it changes your main camera to a Cinemachine camera, and there's a player follow camera and a player capsule. And so let's go ahead and go in here, and let's just add a 3D object plane. I'm going to go ahead and scale it up. And I'm going to hit play and see if I can walk around this plane. I can look. I can even jump. And if I move towards this, I can get there and then fall off the side. And I even cast a shadow, which is a nice little extra bit. It doesn't look particularly good, and my mouse look is a bit slow in my opinion, but we can fix all that. So good. That's wonderful. So I'm going to delete this plane. And this is our first-person controller. And now we can talk about building our level. And the way that I want to build our level is I want to build it with quads. I want to build it with quads that have a scale of 4x4. So I'll show you what I mean. Game objects, 3D objects, and quad. Quad has two faces, two triangles. If we go to shaded wireframe, in the scene view we can change between different view modes, and shaded wireframe can be a really useful thing for us to look at. So here's a quad. It's got one triangle and then a second triangle, and that's what makes it up. So it's very performant. It doesn't have a lot of graphical intensity. It's also not visible from the back. So it's only visible from one side. It's invisible from the other side. So you might notice that if you turn this around, you might lose it, because where the heck did it go? It's here. It's just we're seeing the wrong side of it. Now, if we compare this to a plane, 3D object plane, we can see that this plane actually has a lot more triangles. If we change it to scale to 0.1, the equivalent size with a plane has 10 by 10, so 100 squares with 200 triangles versus 2. So we don't want to use a plane, we want to use quads. And I'm going to set this position of the quad to 0, 0, 0 using the transform. And then I'm going to set the scale to 4 by 4. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, and that will give me the start of the floor that I want to use. Hopefully by the time that you're watching this video, you've got a map laid out. My map is going to have a small room here, and then it's going to move over to a larger room, have another small kind of loading area, and then this will branch out to another large area. And that's kind of the map that I'm going to build here. And the way that I'm going to do this is with these 4x4 meter quads. So I'm going to press Control D with my quad selected. I might let's go ahead and rename it floor. That seems like a smart idea. I'm going to duplicate it and move it over by 4 meters, and then duplicate it again and duplicate it again. Now, right now my snap is set to 1 meter increments, but I'm really only moving in, well, maybe we could change it to 2 meter increments. So I'm going to go to Edit, Grid, and Snap Settings, and change my movement to 2 meters. And that way when I snap, I only have to snap 2 spaces, and there's less room for error. So let's go ahead and I'll duplicate 2 at a time, and then I'm going to duplicate this entire bottom to move it up here. And so there's my 9 quads that build up my floor. And because they're all still named floor, I'm going to just build the floor of my entire map right now. You can also use Vertex Snapping to snap vertices like this. If drag and drop is not your thing, you can also select. So if you select the top object in your hierarchy, and then shift-click the bottom object in your hierarchy, you'll select all the ones in between. You can start at the bottom and then shift-click to the top, and then control-click to deselect any that you've accidentally selected. And this lets me duplicate in much larger amounts. So now I can select all of these. Oh, let's include that one. Duplicate. And now I've got this long room. I am going to select these, move them over here, and now I've got that. And then I'm going to select everything from here and duplicate it to here, but I'm actually going to make it 2 meters higher, maybe 2 meters higher. And so there's actually going to be a ramp that they have to walk through. And that'll be all of my floors. So let's go on and build the walls. I'm going to select one of my floors and duplicate it, and then rotate it, move it over and up, and I'm going to name it wall. And for this small room, my walls only need to be 1 level high. So 4 meters high, and so you can see I just need to delete this there. And then I'm going to duplicate this wall and move it into place. And I'm going to duplicate these 3 walls. And you might make the mistake of putting your walls right here and say, oh yeah, that's right. But they're only visible on one side, so when you're here, you won't see that wall. And that's not what you want. So let's make sure that we turn these walls around. And for my larger room, I'm going to build taller walls. So I'm just going to build them twice as high. So let's go finish up all the walls here. We're definitely going to walk through our level once it's complete and make sure that we have all of the walls that we need and we haven't missed anything. So don't worry too much about that. Six. Don't forget that you can use this button here to move along 2 axes. That can be really useful when you're building your level. Oh, and it turns out that I did want to move my floors all the way up. Just to match my walls there. Okay. All right, and then we get to build the ceilings. And I am just going to take every single floor that I have, duplicate it, and flip it around. But one thing you can do, let's say that you've got an asymmetrical kind of building, right? If rotating this way isn't going to work, you know, it's going to take all your rights and move them to the left side. So you can just go up here to center and change it to pivot. And what happens now is that all of them rotate around their own axis, their own pivot points. And so now that they're upside down, I'm just going to move them up. And that won't work for my smaller rooms because they're, you know, going to be too high. But that's okay. I'll get those one as one. Let's make sure that we rename all of these ceiling. And then I'll just select these one by one and move them down into place. I'm going to switch back to center now that I've finished rotating. Okay. And then these two are just a bit too high. Okay, so now that I've got my world all put together, I'm going to hit play and try to walk through this room. Okay. I can't go through the walls, that's important. I feel like I'm walking a little bit slow, but I can jump. And I can see, and there's no sky visible, even though there are some weird shadows that shouldn't exist the way that they do. And then there's that higher area up there, which I can't get to right now because I don't have a ramp for it. So that's us looking around our levels, but it doesn't look right because, well, it's being lit by sunshine and there are no windows. So I want you to go ahead and delete the directional light now. It's going to make everything real dark. And we're still getting reflections from our skybox, which has a little bit of yellow there. But again, no windows. This is a concrete bunker underground. We'll put in windows later, you know, during the outdoor level. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to select almost everything, all of the floors and the walls and the ceilings, and we're going to make them static. So I'm going to select the top one and then shift click and select the bottom one. And that should select all of the walls and floors and ceilings. And we're going to make them static. Right up here in the inspector, there's a little checkbox that says static, and that's what I want you to click. And what that means is it tells the light mapper, hey, this isn't going to move. I want you to generate lighting for this object. And if we go to Window, and then Rendering and Lighting, it's going to build this window right here, which I love to tuck right next to the inspector. And we're just going to build some new lighting settings. And down at the bottom, there's a button called Generate Lighting. Don't turn Auto Generate on, it's going to give you trouble. But let's generate our lighting. You need to save the scene before baking light maps. We probably should have saved the scene before then. Sorry about that. So let's call this our indoor level. And then it will start thinking and generating some lighting for our scene. And what I expect is that this is going to get very dark. Black, can't see nothing. Because again, there's no light in our scene. There might still be some reflections from the skybox. We can tweak that later, or we can leave it for now. And there's some other things that I like to recommend. For example, the light mapper over here defaults to the progressive CPU. But if you have a good graphics card, the GPU can be much, much faster. The downside is that maybe a quarter of the time it crashes, which is frustrating. And so it's why I don't really recommend it. But the CPU just takes quite a bit longer to actually work. So I guess I'll pause the video, come back in 20 minutes or so. Or maybe I'll stop and run the GPU light mapper and see how that goes. Sometimes it's just too much to work on, and it basically gives up. So maybe now that we know it's there, I'm going to cancel it and add a few lights to my scene. We'll talk more about lights in Module 4, but for now, let's just go to Game Object, Light, and then Spotlight. And I like spotlights because they don't shine on the ceilings so much. Let's just call this Spotlight. Which, mimics how real-life lights work. Let's go ahead and move this to our first room. And let's put it right below the ceiling. So if we want to set a location for it, we could set it to 0 and then, let's say, 3.5 and then 0. And so that's about half a meter below the ceiling, which is acceptable. And then I'm going to increase the spot angle to about 150. And the inner and outer spot angle, I'm also going to increase this to about maybe 130. Okay, love it. We're starting to see a shadow a little bit, but it's not quite bright enough. So I'm going to change the range to 20 or maybe 30. Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of working differently than I expected. Let's change the intensity to 3. And let's go ahead and make it static. And then I'm going to try to bake the lighting again and see what that does to this room. Absolutely nothing is not what I was hoping for. Okay, a couple of things are happening here. One is that our spotlight, which I can't see anymore, there it is set to real time by default. So it wasn't baking anything because it was just based on real time bouncing. So I want to change our lighting to be baked. And then the second thing is, I expected this to be a brighter scene, but all of our materials are set to kind of a medium gray. And I thought they were going to be kind of this white texture. So we're going to build a material. So in our assets folder, we should have a materials folder. And I want to have you right-click, create material. And we're going to name this floor. And I'm just, so by default, it's set to totally white. That's fine. Let's start there. Let's see what that looks like if we drag this onto our floor. Well, quite a bit brighter. Not maybe as bright as I thought it would be, but that's all right. So we can drag this material to every step of our floor. We can also, here's the easier way, are you ready? We can select our floor. Let's select everything that we haven't gotten to yet. So I'm going to select all of the floors. And here, under the mesh renderer, it might be closed up, is one element for materials. And so we're going to drag that floor material to that lit element, and that replaces the material for all of our floors everywhere, which is pretty great. Because that means that we can do the same. Let's duplicate this floor material. Duplicate. And we'll name this one walls. And we'll duplicate this again and name this one ceiling. And we're going to do the same to all of these. I'm going to make my walls maybe kind of a blue color. So we'll come over to this kind of light blue, I think. And then my ceiling should stay white, but my floor can probably turn into more of a light gray like this. I don't want medium gray because that's what they currently are, so let's go for a light gray, just to differentiate it from the ceiling. We can also search in the hierarchy. If you search here for wall, it will show you every object that is named a wall, and it will gray out everything that's not a wall. So I can now select this and press Control-A to select everything in the hierarchy. Can uncheck that indoor level. And I can bring this wall material and select it to all the walls. I'm going to do the same thing for ceiling. Select the top, shift-click the bottom, and drag the ceiling onto there. And then you can just hit this little X to get rid of that. Okay, so let's have a look at our light now. I'm going to change the spotlight angle to 179 and the inner to 179 so that the spotlight is shining all over this room. And then I'm going to bake my lighting again and see what I get. I did switch to the GPU render, by the way, while I was trying to figure out what was wrong. Well, after baking, this is still pretty dark as a scene, and I am displeased with it. So we're going to try something else. It's called an emissive material. And we can make an entire wall panel look like a light source, or be a light source. And I might have to restart Unity. Hold on a moment. So, emissive materials. We're going to go to our materials folder. Right-click, create, new material. And we'll call this light 1. And over in the inspector, under emission, we'll click the checkbox to turn that on. And we'll just use the eyedropper tool to select this white texture, which won't work. Maybe just because it's zoomed in. That's sometimes the issue. And what I want you to do is I want you to select the middle ceiling tile of this room, whatever room you have. You don't have to build mine. You're building yours. Just drag this material onto it, just like that. And just to prove that it's working and to make sure that it's working the right way, I'm going to turn this spotlight off. Might as well delete it. It wasn't doing anything for me, but I'm going to have this emissive material, and then I'm going to try to bake my scene again. So back to, after hitting save, back to the rendering, lighting, and generate lighting buttons. Alright, see you in a minute. So this is casting light. If I go back to shaded and maybe turn off this grid, I can see that it's casting more light than this, probably. But let's make it cast more light. So I am going to go to this light material and open up the HDR. And under intensity, I'm going to change this to 2. And that should make it brighter. We'll go ahead and bake our lighting again. And you can see it's brightening up the walls. It should be making the walls blue. I'm disappointed that it isn't. Maybe that didn't get saved, actually. Okay, so when I had Unity crash, some of my changes weren't saved. So let's pause while I go redo all my material changes. Cancel. Okay. And thank goodness, this is what I wanted it to look like. So I've got a room, I can see the walls, I can see the ceiling, I can see the floor. As we come into here, we can even see the sharp shadow of the light source going out there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add this light source to the rest of my scene. So we'll just take this emissive light, and I'll put one here. And for my larger area, let's see, maybe I can do something where we've got double light panels. Maybe something like that. And I will select all of those and drag this material to all of those, like that. I can do the same for this room because it's the same size. And then I'll do the same to this room. 1 and 2. So now I'll just bake that again. So for some reason, it still only updated this one. It did not update all of the others that I changed. So I am going to change back to the progressive CPU, and I am going to hit generate lighting. That should wipe out all of the maps that I've got and build them again from scratch. I'm also going to change the max light map size to 256. This is going to make my video game look less good, but it is going to speed up the process. I don't quite recommend you do it, but if you feel like this is taking forever, try that. So this is what I expected to see. I expected to see everything well lit. In all of my rooms. There's a little bit of artifacting where the edges of the quads meet up. But otherwise, nice soft shadows, lots of, darkness in the corners and things like that. And this is, when it works the right way, this is what I want. This looks great. It's a good start for whatever level I want to start building. So after I've got the boxes set up, I'm going to start building all the extra pieces that I need. So the ramps and everything else. So let's just deal with that a little bit and talk about building things from scratch a little bit. So I'm going to build this here, and I want to rotate it and stretch it out so that I've got a staircase that goes down to about here, and then a staircase that comes around this way. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to build out kind of like this, and build out like this. There'll be a little pavilion, and then there will be stairs going down to the ground here. And then there will be another set of stairs that goes up to this area. And so the player will walk down these steps and then walk down these steps. So I'm going to build this cube to be 4 meters wide. Let's maybe make this 2 meters wide by 2 meters by 2 meters. What would that look like if my staircase was quite small? Then I could build this to be quite low, actually. So let's make this 2 meters wide as well. And then I'm just going to stretch this out as far as I think it needs to go, and then start rotating it to match. There's a way to do fancy math to make this work the right way, but you can also just bring it into there like that. And then I'm going to duplicate this because it's at the right angle. And I don't want to rotate it around this way. I want to rotate it around the world space. So globally, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees and snap it into there. And now I've got 2 ramps that meet up where I want them to meet up. This one I'm going to rotate so that it's down below the floor, so that it looks just like a proper ramp. And I think I'm going to move this guy out this direction so that I can move this down as well. And then I will duplicate this box. That's very nearly the right size. So let's make this 8 meters and 4 meters, just 4. And then, I don't know, 4 meters would be fine too. So we'll snap it right there. And if our objects are ever too small or too dark, you can turn off the scene lighting with this light bulb, and everything is just kind of lit based on how it's facing the camera. And that can be a really nice way to work as well. So I'm going to take all of these. Maybe I'll just take these two, rotate them 180 degrees, move them to this corner, and then duplicate this and move it to that corner. So let's see what that looks like, feels like to walk up. So it feels large enough. It feels a little on the small size. If I made it the full height, I think I would get better results. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this to be 4 meters wide. Snap it here. And I'm actually going to rotate it down a bit. So let's try 25. And let's make this 4 meters by 4 meters and move it back to the corner. I'm going to make this blue so that I can see where this begins to push into it. So that seems about right. So I'll delete this, duplicate it, and snap it there. So you can see what I'd really like is for this and this to match up. So maybe I'll make this 27, just kind of trial and error. Actually, that's almost perfect. Let's try very slightly less, 26.5. Let's go with that. And I'll go ahead and make this a little bit longer so that it goes underneath there. And I want to make this a little bit wider so that it comes out. Maybe I'll make this 5 meters. We're using vertex snapping to make sure we snap it to the edges correctly. Okay. Duplicate that on the other side. Fun fact, you can click to go through objects. So right behind my mouse right here are 3 objects. There's this one, and then there's the ramp, and then there's the quad wall behind. And if you keep clicking, you can get to other objects. And that's how I can get to that ramp. So that feels all right. Let's make all of these floor materials. And see what that feels like. Now, they haven't had their lighting baked yet, so they're not going to feel like they fit in the scene, but I just want to make sure that I can walk up them easily. And it appears that I can. Okay, so next I'd like to build a railing. And for a ramp like this, I'm going to duplicate it and then shrink it much smaller and then just move it up like that. And from there, I could make this very small, so it's more of a handrail. And I can use, if I go back, yes, let's move this straight up. That's what I want. And then I'll move it here like this. So now I've got this railing, and I could just focus in on it 3D object, maybe cylinders this time, with a scale of 0.1 by 0.1, with a height of maybe 0.5. So that should be a 1 meter high handrail. And if I brought this down here so that it fit in the wall, I could bring this down so that it fit inside of that. And then just start duplicating these. So here, and here, and maybe, you know, several at a time. Do they have to be perfect? Nah, they don't have to be perfect. They can just be, you know, roughly there. Should we build one more down here? No. So, there you go, a railing. Let's see if it feels right when we walk by it. Okay, yeah. It does stop me from falling off of the stairs. That's nice. So what we can do is we can select this and maybe select all of these cylinders. And I'm going to build an empty game object right in the middle of all of them. And I'm going to name it railing. And let's go ahead and go up to this inspector here and select an icon. Maybe this red one. And that will actually make it so that we can see this railing here. And I'm going to make all of the objects that I just had to be children of this railing empty game object, like that. And then I can close this up, and I can select just the railing and duplicate it. Turn it sideways. Move it into position here. Move it up. We could even use vertex snapping if we wanted to snap it to the corner of this railing. I wonder if we could even be as cool as snapping it to this. Looks like I'm going to get an overlap that I don't really want, so I'll leave it like that for now, but I'll move it in a little bit. And that's pretty nice. And now I've got two railings selected. If you want to see something really silly, you can duplicate something like this and then scale it negative so that it actually goes to -1 on the z-axis. Oh no. Something relatively similar to that. -1. -1 here. And then you can just fit it into place like that. It's a little modeling tip you can use. It's a little silly, but it's effective. So let's build another railing for this one by scaling it small and raising it up. And game object, 3D object, cylinder, 0.1, 0.5, 0.1. Moving that into place. And then just duplicating it. We could probably move it, you know, in twos, right? And there you go. There's another little railing. We'll probably have to build one for this as well. And that's really all that you're working on this week, is you're just building your level. You've got infinite Legos. Build something cool. I might build some light sources. So I've got this here. It'd be pretty simple for me to take something like this and snap it into place and just kind of build frames to all of the lights that I have. Let's move you. Can I move you in the center there? Yeah. Let's move you one more time. Little details like that, they mean a lot. One thing that we need to make sure that we're doing is all of the extra stuff that we've been building, make sure that it's also set to static. Yes, change children when you have children. And then when we bake our lighting again, these will be added to the light map so that they look like they belong in the scene. So I haven't done everything that I think you should be doing in your project. So you go ahead and add a lot to your scene. I have to make a video, so you can't watch me do this the whole time. You'll have quite a bit more work than what I've done so far to do. So good luck. See you in the next video.